So we are starting the paper real analysis from today, and this is our first class of this paper. And yes, and we are starting from the unit first, which is real numbers, and we have in total 3 units. That is unit first, as I told, that real numbers. Second unit is sequence, and the third unit is series. So we are starting with the first unit today, which is real numbers. Okay, so let's start with some properties of real number. Some properties, some properties of real number. Define the set P or R plus, which is positive real number, all those real numbers x belongs to R such that x is greater than 0. So we are denoting this set by either with P or R plus. Okay. So equivalently we can say, if someone is saying x is positive, this implies what? X is greater than 0, or also we can say that x belongs to the set R plus and x belongs to the set P, and these are all equivalent things. These are all equivalent things. Okay, so talking about the first property, if A and B belongs to this set P, which is the set of positive real numbers, this implies what? A plus B also belongs to the same set P. Or how can we write this? If A is greater than 0, B is greater than 0, then their sum A plus B is also greater than 0, and this is called sum property, in R plus, sum property of positive real numbers. Okay, second property is, if A and B belongs to this set P, this implies what? Their product should also belongs to the set P, and this is called multiplication in R plus. Yes. Okay. Then third property, which is very important, which say, if you have a real number, what option does it have? Like either it can be positive, either it can be negative, or it can be 0, because 0 is neither positive or neither negative real number. So yes, this property, and this property of real number is called trichotomy property. Trichotomy property. Trichotomy property of real numbers, which is for any A belongs to the set real numbers, either A is equals to 0, or A belongs to the set P, which means what? A is positive real number, or negative of A belongs to the set P. Because if A is negative, what does it mean? A negative, then negative of A is positive real number. So that implies what? Negative of A belongs to set P. I hope this is fine. Or we can say that A is 0, either A is 0 or A belongs to the positive real number, or I'm sorry. A is greater than 0 or negative of A. And A is less than 0. Because if negative of A belongs to the positive real number, so it means what? A is negative. Okay. So based on these results, let's move to a result which is called the trichotomy for two real number. We have discussed the property about a single real number. Now we are going to define the trichotomy property for two real numbers. Trichotomy property for two real numbers. Which states for any A and B belongs to real numbers, exactly one of the following is true. First, either they can be equal, or second, A is greater than B, or third, B is greater than A. Yes, given two real numbers, what can we say about them? Either they can be equal, or one of them is greater than the other and other is lesser than the first one. Okay, let's try to prove this. Proof. Okay, we are defining a real number by the subtraction of A and B, which is, that means what? X is equals to, we are defining X is equals to A minus B. Okay, then yes, apply the trichotomy for a real number, for a real number. Yes, what was that? So that now A and B are the real numbers, so their subtraction is also a real number. So which means X belongs to real number. Then by trichotomy, yes, so then by trichotomy property on real number X, what we get? we get either x is equals to 0 or x is greater than 0 or x is less than 0. Okay. What was x? X is a minus b greater than is equals to 0 or a minus b greater than 0 or a plus a minus b less than 0. Okay. So what we have from here, a is equals to b or a is greater than b or a is less than b. I hope it is clear. So this is trichotomy for two real numbers. So given two real numbers a and b, what can we say about them? Either they can be equal and one of them is greater than the other. Okay. Now let's discuss some important results on real numbers. So far we have discussed about a few property of real numbers. First is that sum of two positive real number is a positive real number. Product of two positive real number is again a positive real number. The third one, which is important, trichotomy for real number, which states that for a real number a, either it can be 0 or it can be positive or it can be negative. Then we have seen a trichotomy for two real numbers. Given two real numbers a and b, what we have, either they can be equal and the second, yes, one of them is greater than the other. Okay. So next we have some results on real number. Some results on real numbers. So first result is, let a, b, c belongs to the real number, then if a is greater than b and b is greater than c, then we must have a is also greater than c. So yes, let's try to prove this. Proof. Yes. Let what we have three real numbers a, b and c, and given a and we have a is greater than b and b is greater than c, then we must have a should also be greater than c. Okay. Let a is greater than b and b is greater than c. Now since yes, a is greater than b, what we can say that a minus b should be greater than 0. Yes. And b minus c, since b is greater than c, then b minus c is also greater than 0. So which implies what? As we have discussed earlier, the first property of positive real numbers, that sum of two positive real number must be a positive real number. So yes, by adding them, what we have, a minus b plus b minus c must be greater than 0. And what is the reason? The sum property. The sum of two positive real number is real. Sum of two positive real number is positive real. Is positive real. And from here, what we have, a minus c should be greater than 0, and this implies what? A must be greater than c. Yes. Now let's move to the second property, which says if A is greater than B, then this implies what? A plus C greater than B plus C. Try to prove this. Again we have A greater than B. We have A greater than B. Let A greater than B. So what can I say? A minus B should be greater than 0? Yes? Okay, then if A minus B is greater than 0, then yes, A plus C minus B plus C should be greater than 0? Yes, since we are adding the same quantity C to both A and B. Yes. And from here, what we can say? That A plus C should be greater than B plus C. Okay. Third property. If A is greater than B and C is a positive real number, then AC is greater than BC. For example, so it means what? If I multiply with a positive real number in an inequality, then inequality remains the same. It doesn't reverse. Okay, for example, what we have, yes, if 3 is greater than 2, as we know, let's multiply this inequality with a positive real number. Let's take let's take C is equals to 4. So if I multiply this, we have 3 multiply with 4, 2 multiply with 4, and we have 12 greater than 8. So inequality remains the same. Yes. Let's try to prove this inequality as well. Prove. We are going to use the multiplication property of the positive real number. Okay, since we have let A is greater than B and C is greater than 0. So see, if A is greater than B, so what we have? A minus B should be greater than 0 is a positive real number, and C is also given is a positive real number. So their product must be a positive real number. So this implies what? A minus B product with C should be greater than 0. What is the reason? Since the product of two real numbers is the positive real. Okay, now from here, yes, AC minus BC is greater than 0, and from here we must have AC should be greater than BC. Okay, I hope this must be clear. Let's move to the other property, which is fourth. Okay, ये क्या कहता है हमें? So if A is greater than B and C is negative real, and this time C, what is C? C is a negative real number. Then अगर मैं C को मल्टीप्लाई करता हूं इस इनइक्वालिटी में, which is A is greater than B, then the inequality reverse. AC must be less than BC. Okay. Let's see the proof. So let A is greater than B and C is less than 0. Given, it is given that C is greater than 0. Sorry, C is less than 0. Okay, now as A is greater than B, again what we have, A minus B should be a positive real number, and we have C is less than 0. A minus B again is a positive real number, and if a real number is negative, then negative of that number, that real number must be positive. So negative of C must be greater than 0. Yes. Again we have two positive real numbers. First is A minus B and second is negative of C. So if I multiply them, what we get? A minus B multiplied with negative of C. Again it is greater than 0 because both are positive real, since product of two positive real, two product of two positive real is positive real. The same argument. Okay. So from here what we have? Yes, negative of AC plus BC is greater than 0, and yes, from here what we can say, that AC is less than BC. I hope it is clear. Okay. Let's move to the next property. Fifth property क्या कहता है? If A is greater than B and both are greater than 0, then we must have 1 upon A, the reciprocal of A must be less than the reciprocal of B. So for example, we can see yes, 3 is greater than 2, but the reciprocal of 3 is 1 by 3 and the reciprocal of 2 is 1 by 2. And which one is greater? 1 by 3 is something 0.3, right? And 1 by 2 is something around 0.5. So inequality reverse. Okay, let's try to prove this. Now since we have A and B are both positive real number, right? So their reciprocal must be a real number again. Yes, clearly what we have, 1 by A and 1 by B must belongs to the real number. Yes. So if I apply the trichotomy for two real number, what we get? Either 1 by A is equals to 1 by B, or 1 by A is greater than 1 by B, or 1 by A is less than 1 by B. Yes, that is what we have discussed about the trichotomy property of two real numbers. Okay, talking about these one by one. Okay, so hmm. So in first case first, if 1 by A is equals to 1 by B, multiplying it with the multiplying this inequality with AB on both sides. Now since A and B are positive real numbers, so what we have, the product of A and B must be greater than 0, since we know product of two positive real number is again a positive real number, right? Yes. So I am multiplying with AB on both sides. So this implies what? B is equals to A, and which is a contradiction. Why? Since it is given that A is greater than B, which is a contradiction, since it is given that A is greater than B. Okay, now let's move to the case second. What we have, if 1 by A is greater than 1 by B, then again multiplying this inequality with the quantity AB, with real number AB, and since it is positive real number, so the sign of inequality does not change. Yes, into 1 by A must be greater than AB multiplied with 1 by B, and from here we have B is greater than A, which is again a contradiction. Since given that A is greater than B. So yes, from here we must have the case third. We must have the case third. हमने क्या किया, केस फर्स्ट which says कि दोनों इक्वल होंगे, उसको रिमूव कर दिया, एंड केस सेकंड which says that 1 by A is greater than 1 by B, तो हमने इसको भी रिमूव कर दिया, राइट? सो यस, जो रिमेनिंग बचा वो हमारा रिजल्ट. ओके, next result, number 6. If A is a real number, if A is a real number and A is not equals to 0, which means A is a non-zero real number. A is a non-zero real number and A is not equals to 0, then A square must be greater than 0. Yes, for example, yes, for example, 2 is a real number and square of 2 is 4, which is again a positive real number. Sorry, it is a positive real number. Okay, and negative 2 is also real number and its square is again 4, which is a positive real number. Yes. Let's try to prove this. Yes. How we can approach? Now, since here again it is a real number and it is, so by trichotomy of a real number, what we have, either a can be equals to 0 or it can be positive or it can be a negative real number, right? But here it is also given that a is not equals to 0. So what other options we are left with? We are left with, since a is not equals to 0, so we have therefore either a is greater than 0 or a is less than 0, which implies what? Negative of a is greater than 0 by which property? Again by trichotomy property. Trichotomy property of a real number. Okay. Now see, let's discuss these cases one by one. Case first, if a is greater than 0, then what we have? Then, yes, let's multiply this inequality, which is a is greater than 0, with a again. So on the LHS we have a square and on the RHS we have 0, right? And inequality doesn't resolve because in this reverse, because in this case a is a positive real number. Yes, and from here what we have, a square must be a positive real number. Okay. Yes. Case second, if a is a negative real number, then yes, now again multiply this inequality, which is a is less than 0, with a. Here is a is a negative real number, so inequality get reversed. And from here we have a square must be greater than 0. So from both the cases what we have, if a is a non-zero real number, then its square must be greater than 0. Okay. Seventh property, we have to prove that 1 is greater than 0. I know it is obvious, but yes, we have to prove this. Prove. Now apply the above result, the sixth result. But क्या कह रहा था ये हमसे कि if a is a non-zero real number, then its square must be greater than 0. Okay, since 1 is a real number, 1 is a real number, and we know it, and we know that it is not 0. It is non-zero. So this implies what? Its square must be greater than 0. From result 6th, and from here what we have, 1 should be greater than 0. Okay. Okay, before the next result, before the next result, do we know about the induction process? What is induction process? Given a statement, we try to prove this. We try to prove this statement for every natural number. Yes, क्या करते हैं इसमें हम? In the first step, what we prove that it is true. This statement is the mathematical statement. The given statement is true for the natural number 1. Yes. Then in the second step, we assume that it is true for k natural number. And in the last step, what we prove that it is true for n is equals to k plus 1. Okay. So our next result is, if n belongs to natural number, then n must be greater than 0. Yes. Proof. So we proceed through induction. We shall proceed through induction. We shall proceed through induction process. Induction process. In the first step क्या करेंगे हम? We prove for n is equals to 1. Yes. Which is true? Which is true? Why? Because अभी हमने prove किया in the result number 7 that 1 is greater than 0. So yes, this result is true for the natural number 1, which is true since in the last result we proved that 1 is greater than 0. Okay. Next, in the second step क्या करते हैं हम? Assume for n equals to k, for the kth natural number, that this result holds for the kth natural number. Okay. And what is इसका मतलब क्या हुआ? That k is greater than 0. Okay. And in the last and final result, in the final step, अब क्या करेंगे हम? We show for n equals to k plus 1. Okay, now see clearly. Yes, as k is greater than 0 and 1 is greater than 0. Why k is greater than 0? From our assumption in the second step. Okay, and since k is greater than 0 and 1 is greater than 0, so both are positive real number. Again, applying the sum property of positive real number, क्या मिलेगा हमें यहाँ से? We get k plus 1 must be greater than 0. And so this implies what? This result holds for all natural numbers. Yes, यही प्रूव करना था हमें. And why it is greater than 0? K is greater than 0 from, yes, let's mention the result used here. K is greater than from star. And यहाँ पे क्या यूज किया हमने? We use that sum of two positive real number is positive real. Next, we have a very important result. It is very, very important. Which states if product of two real number is greater than 0, product of two real number is greater than 0, then both A and B have same sign. Have same sign. And this result is very important from the exam point of view. Okay. And we have to use this result in the further upcoming sections. Let's understand this with an example. Since we know that 10 is a positive real number, and can I write 10 as a product of two real numbers? Yes. How can I write this? Either I can write 2 multiply with 5, or I can write it as minus 2 multiply with minus 5. Right. And in both the cases, both see 2 and 5 are both positive, and minus in the second case minus 2 and minus 5 are both negative. Right. So this is our result, which states if the product of two positive real if the product of two positive real number no if product of two real number is positive, then both the real numbers have same sign. Okay, let's prove this. Now since their product is greater than 0, so क्या इंप्लाई कर रहा है यहां से? ये क्या मैं यहां से लिख सकता हूं that A and B must be non zero, because अगर कोई एक भी 0 हुआ तो product should be 0. Yes. Okay, now we have to prove that A and B have the same signs, right? So for a while, let's suppose if possible, we are going to do this result, the proof of this result, with the method of contradiction. If possible, suppose A and B have opposite signs. Okay. And consider the following cases. Case number 1. क्या cases arise होंगे? Because now we suppose that yes, A and B have opposite sign. So in the first case, what we can say, if A is greater than 0 and B is less than 0, because what we have right now, that A and B have opposite signs. Okay. Now if A is greater than 0 and B is less than 0, then we have A must be greater than 0, and since B is less than 0, so this implies what? B is a negative real number, then negative of B must be positive real number. Yes. And now A and negative of B is a positive real number, right? Then their product must be positive real number. Yes. What is the reason? The product of two positive real is positive real. Okay, then what we have, negative of AB is greater than 0. And from here, what we have? AB must be less than 0. After multiplying it with negative of 1, minus 1, inequality become reversed. AB must be less than 0. Why? Since हमने किससे मल्टीप्लाई किया इस इनइक्वालिटी को? -1, which is a contradiction, right? Which is a contradiction. Yes, why it is a contradiction? Since we have the product of A and B must be greater than 0. So, yes, okay. Now move to the case second. What we have in the case second? If A is less than 0 and B is greater than 0. In the first case, we assume that A is positive and B is negative, right? And in the second case, we are assuming that A is negative and B is positive. Okay. Now, following the steps that we did in the case first, here A is negative, so this implies what? Negative of A must be greater than 0 and B is greater than 0 as it is. Again, negative of A and B is a positive real number. So this implies what? Their product must be greater than 0. Again, the same result. It is very important to write the reason in maths honors. This is your first semester. So yes, keep in mind, whatever result you are using, you have to mention it. It is very important. Since the product of two positive real is positive real. Okay. And from here again we have negative of AB is greater than 0 and again multiply it with negative of 1, but we have AB must be less than 0. And why it happened? Since negative of 1 is less than 0, which is again a contradiction. Which is a contradiction. And we know the reason why. Since the product of A and B is given positive. So therefore, what we can say that our supposition that A and B have opposite sign was wrong. And therefore, A and B have the same sign. A and B have the same sign. Okay? Let's do the final result of this class. Yes, we have proved that if AB is a positive, the product of two real number is positive, then both A and B have the same sign, right? Okay, then now we prove if product of two real number is negative, then A and B must have opposite sign. Have opposite signs. Yes. Again, we prove this result by the method of contradiction. Yes. क्या assume करेंगे इसमें भी हम? We have to prove that A and B have opposite signs. So yes. क्या assume करना पड़ेगा हमें? That A and B have the same signs. Again, A, B product of yes, product is given as the product of A and B is negative. So yes, again A and B are non-zero. So it is obvious. So let's start with the supposition. Let if possible. Let if possible. let if possible, suppose A and B have same sign. So again arises the two cases. First is if A is greater than 0 and B is greater than 0. Yes. Now both are positive real numbers. So this implies what? Their product must be greater than 0. Again mention the result. We are using product of, since product of two positive real is positive real. Okay. Which is a contradiction? Which is a contradiction. Why? Since we are given that the product of A and B is negative. Okay. Now move to the case second. क्या बनेगा हमारा case second? That if A is greater than both A and B have negative signs, which means both A and B are negative. A is less than 0 and B is less than 0, right? So this implies what? Yes. If A is negative, then negative of A must be greater than 0 and negative of B must be greater than 0. Yes, because we are multiplying it with negative of 1. ऐसे भी समझ सकते हैं हम इसको. So inequality क्या होगी? Reverse हो जाएगी. And from here, what we have again, my negative of A and negative of B, both are positive real numbers. So yes, their product must be positive real number. Negative of A, negative of B must be greater than 0. And from here, what we have, AB is greater than 0, which is again a contradiction. Which is a contradiction. Why? Since the product of A and B is negative. So our supposition that A and B have same sign was wrong, and hence we must have A and B have opposite sign, has opposite signs. Yes, we have to mention this result. Since product of two positive real is positive real. So with this result, we conclude our today's class. I hope it is clear. In the next class, we will start the absolute. Okay, thank you.